Howdy folks, it's Meandering Mike in the Man Cave of Madness, and we are doing another segment of Collector's Corner. Today we are presenting High Fantasy. This is adventure game book material and role-playing game material. Now, this is the third episode we're doing on Collector Corner. The first one was on the TSR 1-in-1 adventure game books, and then we did a series on the Phoenix Enterprise Limited, the 5 games they published before they went out of business in about the course of a year. Both of those were like early 82. Well, this material here also happens to be early 80s, late 70s, like 79 up through about 82-ish. Now, as I said, this is adventure game books and role-playing game. I don't cover role-playing game material much on this channel, and it wasn't my intention to switch to that. However, in my mind, when I was finding these guys, assembling my items in my collection, I found out where they all were, put them all together. I was thinking that most of this material was adventure game books, and it's not. Now, this was my first exposure here. This book here, High Fantasy. This has the rules for a role-playing game, but it has a very large paragraph-based adventure in here. See, many, many pages of it. All right. And it has rules for the role-playing part. Now, you know, at least half the book is the role-playing rules. Unlike something like one-on-one adventure game books from TSR or the fighting fantasy stuff, the rules on how to play are much shorter, and this is much longer. But in my mind, when I first encountered this, was a solo adventure game book. All right, and over the course of time, is acquiring more of this material, and some of it is more adventure game book material, but all the rest of this is just role-playing game material. All right. So let's go through it all, what we have here. This is how the rules were originally published, 1979, Jeffrey C. Dillow. So this is a pretty typical of the era fantasy, you know, kind of low budget, not great art. Typewriter font. Mostly just text, and charts and tables. There are, again, some internal artwork. And, you know, it's not horrible, but it's not anything award-winning either. All right, let's see. I think there's some maps in here somewhere, maybe not. Actually, I don't think there was any adventure at all here in this first one. But, so this came out in 79, and it was followed up by 2 adventures, Fortress of Elendil and Morgard. Now, those are pretty nice, colorful artwork. Nothing on the back, but just, you know, details, publisher blurb. But, you know, if you look super close, it's not, you know, again, it's not award-winning art, but it's not bad. It fits the genre. It shows, you know, obviously, big demon dude and people, adventurers facing that. So these 2 adventures would get published again later. Now, so this was 79. This, I believe, came out in 82. There was more material created from 79, 80, maybe this was in 81, I can't remember. So this took here the rules from this, and they cleaned them up a little bit and expanded them. And then optional melee rules. But this adventure was created, this big adventure in here was created by Craig C. Fisher. So the original author was Jeffrey C. Dillow, and he also authored this, but the adventure in here was written by Craig Fisher. All right, so this came out, and shortly thereafter, this. Now, this is an expansion. This is High Fantasy, and it ventures in High Fantasy. Now, oddly, you know, this does not include a game book style solitaire adventure. There are no paragraph style things in here. There are some adventure stuff in here. Settings, adventure settings. Let me get to the... So Moorgard and Fortress Elendar are reprints of these two. So if you have this, you don't need any of these. You'll have these two adventures and you'll have this material. Now, if you're a completist and you just have to have everything, well, of course, you'll want to go out and get these. But if you start here, you'll have all the original material that was published in 79, plus Terra Ash, which is another adventure. And then there's rules about fighting, field battles, wars. So that's what the Lords of Conquest is. So this material expands on this to give you more. So again, you do get in here a solitaire substantial gamebook adventure. Now, I'm not sure which came next, this or this. Craig Fisher, remember, he's the guy that wrote the nice adventure in here. So this whole book is a paragraph game adventure. Okay, there are enough of the rules here in the front, but some of it's just introductory material, maps and stuff. So it's a small subset of the rules in here, which this is to support a standard role-playing game adventure with a dungeon master and players, along with solitaire adventure games. But this here was mostly for, okay, what do you need to be able to play this? You know, very long, like 603 paragraphs worth here. All right. Now this, let's just so you know, let's find the dates here. This was 82. I bet you this is 82 also. Maybe it was 83, but I think the last thing I'm going to show you was 83. But now this copy here, 82. This is kind of the holy grail of high fantasy material. Goldchester, very hard to find this guy. My copy is pretty beat up, and it still cost me $50 to get this dude in this beat up state. Finding a really nice copy, you will pay through the nose. And even this now is probably double that price. Since the time I bought it, this is probably up to 100, maybe, to get this grade of item. But Goldchester, more adventures in life. This is a city setting. Goldchester is a city. And then they have more settings within the city. Castle Knot, the Quest of the Champion, Set Temu, and the De Heisik Canyon. All right, so those are all adventures connected to things in the city. All right, so these were by Jeffrey C. Dillow, with the adventure in here by Craig Fisher. Adventure by Craig Fisher. Now, this item here is sort of near and dear to me. Wizards and Warriors hardcover. Okay, this turns out reprints this. Okay, so even though this is Jeffrey C. Dillow, again, half of this is by Craig Fisher. And this contains an adventure story, Murder in Arliss, or is it Murder at Arliss? I gotta double check. Arliss, not Arliss. 1982. Murder in Arliss. And then In the Service of Sayana Safar. Okay. Now, so this is sort of my whole thing. I could not find the Murder in Arliss anywhere. Supposedly, I read somewhere that it had been published separately, but this is the only place I found it in this collection that has this. Now, why is Wizards and Warriors, the title especially, back starting in late 70s, like 79 into the early 80s, I created a role-playing game called Wizards and Warriors. I never published it. It was just for my friends and I, but it was when original D&D and Holmes Basic D&D had been out, and they just started saying, we're going to make Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. They had come out with the Monster Manual, but they hadn't yet come out with the Player's Handbook and the Dungeon Master's Guide. And so while we were waiting for that, I created Wizards and Warriors, which was a combination of sort of Dungeons and Dragons, Empire of the Petal Throne, and the micro games Melee and Wizard. The fantasy trip had not come out yet. And so my game, Wizards and Warriors, and I say, Wizards and Warriors, you're borrowing that. That's been used so much. Well, again, like I started this back in 1979, and Wizards and Warriors had not been used. Wizards and Warriors became a Nintendo game, Wizards and Warriors, but that was later. It became a TV show, that was later. This book called Wizards, that was later. There's an online network MMO that never really took off that was called Wizards and Warriors. Wizards and Warriors has been used all over the place. But for me, I use the title first. I'm sure even other places the term Wizards and Warriors has been used. But it was the highly common sort of, W and W, D and D, Tunnels and Trolls, T and T, Bunnies and Burrows, B and B, all those, same two letters, the alliterative pattern. So when I started hearing, other people, I called my game, I changed the name to Wizards and Warriors and Wanderers. So it's W, W, and W. So anyway, so this is a really nice find. As far as I know, it only came out in hardback, nice copies like this. Now, this has some slight fading. There's no damage or anything. But these are going, like for $150. Now, you can get them for less. You can maybe get it under 100 if your copy's, beat up or a little bit. But this is, quite the collector's item in this condition. So Meandering Mike, Meandering all the things. So two tangents. One, stay tuned for, at some point, it's on my bucket list to recreate my role-playing game Wizards and Warriors, which I lost all of the material that I had, Wizards and Warriors and Wanderers. So someday on the channel, I'll be doing some designer videos about the recreation of my role-playing game, and eventually I'll publish it in some format or not. The other thing is having to do with my content here for Collector's Corner, Gamebooks and games, and that probably coming up within, see, let's still down here so you can see a little more of this. Within a month, probably from now, I'll do another Collector's Corner focusing on war games, board games. I'll pick another, small publisher where I've got the complete collection. I've put together a collection of their whole line, and it'll probably be in the early 80s. So I have one in mind for that. At some point, we'll probably be returning to more game book things. I don't know if I'll always alternate between, game book collections and that. This turned out to be a little bit of, this and this is all game book material. Half of this is game book material, but this is all technically role-playing. I'm not going to start doing role-playing game-oriented collection corner stuff, at least, not for a few years or something. I might sneak one in so often, but we'll try to focus mostly on games, and then maybe, maybe try to do two game-oriented collector's corners to every game book one. But so far, it's been the opposite ratio because we started with the game book collections. Now, game books and book games. My definition of a game book is a adventure that you play in a book solo, like Fighting Fantasy or Choose Your Own Adventure or this high fantasy material or Tunnels and Trolls. Now, Tunnels and Trolls is a role-playing game that you can play standalone, but Tunnels and Trolls is known mostly for its solitaire game book material. A book game to me is a game, a board game, a war game that is in a book. There's like maps, there's counters, there's rules. You buy a book and you either pull out the maps or you photocopy them. It's a print and play or whatnot. To me, that's a book game. Now, I did a video recently on alternate formats, cardboard box games. I called it my non-boxing unboxings, and I covered games in tins, and I have a poll on my channel, which is now officially closed, and the winner of between bag games and tube games and games in other than cardboard, like wood or plastic cases, or the tin games, and the last one was book games. Book games won. So I will be doing this week or next week a video on book games. So other than not game books, but book games. And so we will look at a fair selection of different book game series, and I will go and do an unboxing of one of them, because we're going to look through a book game. Now, there might be unboxing elements in that, and I'll explain that when we get to that. So, Meandering Mike, Man Cave Manager, this is way longer than we wanted to. We wanted to keep this, under 15 minutes, but so we're up to 16. But so coming up, continued Collector's Corner stuff. We will do a game-oriented small publisher from the 80s, and we will do book games in the non-boxing unboxing series. And of course, we have continued playthrough of Leany coming up, and our ways of thinking in war games, and leveraging our current Leany game in progress and talking about. And if you haven't, some of you might be able to guess, but I was alluding to the fact there's a famous poker player and author who's written books, and it's Annie Duke. So if you're familiar with Annie Duke's work, we'll be looking at a couple of her books and how you can leverage some of what she talks about in examining games and determining, is the quality of your decisions good, and can we determine that from the quality of the outcomes that you get? So that's coming up. So Meandering Mike, Man Cave Madness, we're past 17 minutes. So remember, folks, take care of your games and your game books, and they'll take care of you. Ciao, y'all.